see if it fits.
I gave mine away, didn't think I would. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it might be a little tight.
There you go.
Ben had said that LDWF had shocked and didn't find any in it for whatever reason.
All right, everybody got everything? As far as you know? So yeah, this is John Barr's Slumpbuster. John Barr is a tire from Colorado, probably most well known for the Copper John, which is the nymph with like the copper wraps in most of the back, but he also did the Slumpbuster, and then kind of a larger version of this fly that's called the Meat Whistle, and then a couple of mergers I think are some of his better known flies, but pretty well respected, innovative tire, Colorado. Slumpbuster kind of just imitates, I don't know, a lot of things, a leech, a minnow. I think it could probably look like a crawfish to fish down here. I've caught bass, catfish, crappie recently. I had a trout go after one when I was up in Colorado a few weeks ago. So anywhere you're fishing a streamer, and you can cast it on a pretty light rod, like a 4-weight or something that casts pretty easy. So it's a good streamer to throw in if you're not really streamer fishing, but you might want something bigger or heavier. So once you get your hook in the vise, we're gonna take the piece of lead I gave you and just wrap it around the hook. Give it, you know, try and get 10 or so wraps, or just use the whole thing if you want.
You want it forward up by
the... I like to wrap it first and then push it up and jam it up against that cone, yeah. Just helps hold that cone in place so it doesn't kind of wiggle around on you the whole time, and adds a little weight.
Yeah, I see a lot of those guys when they're using a bead or a cone, they're really just putting a little. Just putting a little. They don't even wrap. Like they're just putting a little piece of lead just to hold that cone in place.
Yeah, yeah, and you could also just use a bead. I mean, a bead's more expensive. I don't know why you would, but maybe if you wanted a lot of weight, you could just put a tungsten bead behind the cone. But yeah, wrap it in there, and then, like I said, jam it, push it forward against the cone to really hold it solid against that eye.
tie in behind that lead with...
Yeah, and then once you got it...
Oh, no, not necessarily.
I'm using a darker colored thread. A dark drab colored thread is kind of the preferred, but if you wanted, you could do a hot color thread to put a little collar behind the eye. But yeah, start your thread right behind that lead, and then...
You putting this whole piece of lead on there?
I put the whole piece. And then work to build up a little dam right behind that lead. You can see I'm kind of creating almost like a small taper here, kind of going back and forth and trying to make it even with that lead. That'll hold it there and then help kind of build a little taper under your, on the underbody. Then you can kind of work your way over and on top of that lead once you got it even. I don't have any backstory on the name of this fly, like the merkin crab, but if anybody wants to create a backstory.
You should have done your homework.
I'm not sure what kind of slump this busted John out of, but... Alright, and if everybody's caught up, a trick that I'd never really done, but I actually watched a video with John Barr tying the fly himself. He kind of puts the wire and the braid together and ties them in all at once, so if you can, you don't have to do them, you can tie it in separately, but might as well save one step. But take the piece of braid and the piece of copper wire and you kind of align the ends of it. And then you can just kind of butt those all the way back up against where your cone is, and then just tie them both down at the same time and just cover it up. Cover the whole thing all the way back to a little back to where the hook gouge is, or the barb of the hook, and then I'm going to cover and just kind of make it a little smoother. We're going to wrap the braid all the way over that underbody, but kind of the smoother it is, it'll help you wrap a little bit smoother. And bring your thread, once you have both those tied in, you can bring your thread all the way up to the front and let it kind of hang right behind that cone. And then once you got that done, what we're going to do is wrap the whole body with touch and wraps with this pearl braid to kind of create the underbody. So then once you get up to that cone, you can tie it off. I like to do like 4 wraps behind it and then a few wraps in front, then cinch it down good and then cut.
Makes it a lot easier.
I know. Yeah.
What's the intro? You're welcome. What are you got hanging out the back there?
Yeah, you want to keep your wire hanging out the back. Keep the copper wire hanging out the back.
Oh.
Thanks.
If you need another set of materials, let us know.
Well, you were supposed to put the copper wire and that braid on at the same time.
Yeah, that was
Drag it to the
in theory, a time-saving step, but if you get mixed up, it doesn't end up saving that much time.
You're just gonna have to fish around dumb fish, I guess.
Tell you, dumb fisherman, heck with that.
Right, and then I gave everybody, I think, like about half a piece of a squirrel zonker. what we're gonna do is tie in a piece along the back, and I would say you want it to be about the whole thing to be about 2 hook shanks long. So I think I'm right about there with mine. And so once you take that measurement, you can go ahead and cut your squirrel right at that point. Try not to cut any of the hairs if you can. We're going to use both parts, but we're just going to tie this piece in right now. So once you cut it, you can either cut or just strip some of these hairs.
On this zonker, the grain tends to go one direction.
Yeah.
You want that going toward the tail?
Yeah, you want it flowing back.
Okay.
Yeah, you want it flowing back. So cut it in half,
The front, yeah, you tie that front
strip
that,
some of the hairs off,
tubing down with the thread.
and then just tie it in right where your thread was hanging, right behind that cone
Yeah.
with some good tight wraps. And then, you can also trim the tail to length once you have it tied in if you don't like the length, but for mine, I think that looks good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to wrap, it's kind of tricky, I'll show y'all when everybody gets there, but we're going to wrap that wire around the body and over the hide to kind of hold it down along the top. It's kind of like one of those old Matuka style streamers.
And you said that once it's tied in behind the bead,
Mm-hmm.
to go about 2 hook lengths.
Yeah, I would say you just want the whole squirrel strip to be about 2 shank lengths. Mine's a little bit longer than that.
And you want to go ahead and snip the skin part.
At the front where you tie it in, you can pull some of the hairs out, so you're tying in just a bare piece of leather. With this squirrel, it's so thin you could just tie over the hair. I don't think it would matter. You're going to cover all that up anyway. But I was saying strip off, before I tied it in, I was saying strip off some of this front piece, just so you could have a bare piece of leather to tie in.
That fly looks like right now.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh, I thought he said tie
important
with
that
the
I don't understand
the hair going back.
what you do is
You want the hair going back towards the back of the fly.
to keep tension as you go. See what I'm saying?
And you want it to run along the top.
Yeah, it's going to be along the top. So try and keep it centered along the top as best you
I
can.
broke it like every fly. About 3 times.
They gotta take this off.
I don't know. You asked me.
I can't see it from here.
Well, he's telling me something that I didn't hear you say, and that was to do something with measuring the whole thing.
Oh yeah. So I kind of cut mine almost right in half. But yeah, so I had I cut this whole thing in half. So you can cut it at the end once you've already got it tied in. I would say, once you measure that skin side to be about 2 hook shanks total, so 1 hook shank off the back, you can cut at that point. And then your leftovers, hold on to, we're going to tie that in later.
Cut that thing right in half then.
Cut it on the skin, trying not to cut the hair if possible. There you go.
Well, if anybody wants to go into the squirrel zonker making business, let me know. I got squirrels.
You got squirrels? All right. I don't know how you zonk them.
I know, I was thinking about that. I'm not sure how they do that.
Every time I
Probably got like
Machine,
show
I
my
guess.
number over there,
Yeah.
they send out a memo, they get on the bus, and they come back over there. But nature abhors a vacuum, and they're gonna fill up my yard with squirrels.
All right. Most everybody got the squirrel tied in. Okay, so this, like I said, kind of the tricky part. You kind of want to hold your squirrel along the top and keep it centered on the top. And then if you got your wire hanging out the back. So see how this wire is kind of coming off right here, all the way at the back. I'm going to hold the squirrel down, pull. You can wet your fingers to kind of make that fur stay where it's at. But kind of part it right where that wire is, and then wrap over it to hold it down against the body, the hook and the body. And then you're gonna do that 5 or 6 times, wrapping your wire forward. So just, you know, think about getting 4.
We need to wrap it like maybe twice there just to hold it down before.
This hook actually gives it a good look.
Hmm?
I like the way that hook gives it a good look.
Yeah, with the
Sweet
curve.
line, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How we coming? Good.
Christmas is coming. What do you do with the excess? You just keep wrapping it in front?
The wire.
Wire? Yeah, just
Wrap a
few
couple
times.
times and then just cover it
Tie
with
off
thread.
thread,
Yeah,
and
just
then
wrap
you
the
can-
thread over
then
it.
You can helicopter it all.
Cut it with some cheap scissors if you got them. There you go. Yeah.
Or just do like this.
Yeah. Helicopter.
Brand, I'll usually have page advantage.
All right, the last step, we're gonna make a collar with that other piece of squirrel. So again, if you wanna strip off some of the fur just to give you kind of a cleaner tie-in, not really necessary, but go ahead and do that. And then you can tie it in almost at a 45-degree angle instead of going straight back. It might help you, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna tie it in there and then we're gonna wrap it around and then tie it off.
How long?
You can use the whole length of whatever you got left. I mean, you're gonna want to at least this much to work with.
I knew I was going to do that.
Yeah, just start with that, and then you'll just cut off the extra. So yeah, if you need a longer piece, let us know. But something at least an inch or inch and a half is the minimum. So like I said, I'm gonna turn mine just so y'all can kind of see how I'm doing it on the
Got about
top
an
here.
inch left here.
Here you go, Joe. I'll get
Way too much, Joe.
No, it's not enough.
Thank you.
So I'm back to the copper wire stage here. So will you just try to use up the rest of it?
No, once you make a couple complete wraps around it, then you can tie it off with your thread. Just wrap over it with your thread 4 or 5 times, and then you can cut it or just kind of break it off. So if I can do this.
Times, it doesn't have to be 4 or 5 times. Thread control, man.
Thread control. So I'm trying to show you this as I get my finger in the camera, but I'm putting mine at a little bit of an angle there when I tie it
You
down.
try to cut it with your scissors, you're liable to cut your thread.
And then tight wraps, and then work your thread all the way to right behind the bead. And then once you have that tied in, we're just gonna palmer it. I would do maybe, so once around, and then maybe once more to the top, and then you kind of
Okay, start with this piece again, saying what you're doing.
tied it in right there at the top. Can you see that?
Okay.
Just by the skin, and then we're just gonna palmer it to make a little collar. So I'm just holding this, wrapping it all the way around. So once I'm at the back at the top again, you tie it off.
What size hook is this?
This is a size 6.
Okay.
And if you do the best you can do to kind of
Get what you're doing.
pull all those fibers back,
Get it to stay.
you're going to tie it off once you make a wrap or 2. So I've made 1 wrap there. I'm going to try for 1 more.
Okay, so if you take that
One end.
that piece and,
Okay.
and pull a few hairs off to leave a piece of skin, a skin tag, and tie it down on the skin. And then palmer it is wrapping it around. And I have
Tie it down, made a few tie wraps, and then just try and get in and trim just that skin. And then once that's down, you can kind of hold it all back. My cone's a little bit small on this one, so I'm kind of overshooting my cone, but let me just put some thread wraps, make a little thread collar. and whip finish, and that's it. Yeah, I think this the cone's a little big, or the lead was a bit too much. Looking kind of wonky here, but I think it'll still fish.
Put the whole cone like upside down. If you twist it. I managed to keep
Yeah, I tried earlier. I couldn't maneuver it, but
What's wrong with jacked up looking too?
call it the downward facing Slumpbuster.
Yeah, I like that. That was kind of an accident,
same thing.
Yeah.
right?
Down.
I kind of, yeah, I mean, well,
One wrap with your
I think it
thread.
gives it a good look though.
I
huh?
use it
Kind of
all.
a-
Yeah.
I went
I saw,
around.
I saw her.
I either jammed my cone into, or couldn't get it to
Oh,
bend back down. Again, doesn't really matter, but
You know, you have it like what
yeah.
you see, right?
I think I do that a lot. What I do is I don't put that lid on there. I actually work it back.
oh, okay. So it can kind of swivel a little bit, give you some wiggle
because,
room.
OCD.
Yeah,
The whole down, then you can let go of your thread, cut your thing, and then clean it up.
That was pretty quick, man.
Well, that was a quick answer.
Nice
Cause they, my daughter skis.
So this, we're gonna tie this the same one?
Same exact one, we're just doing a different color.
Alright.
So yeah, there's the downtown
You got a couple different colors of crawfish.
block of ice.
I'd rather sit here and, oh, sit in the cheap seats.
Correct.
What you doing? I got you. Well, you better get started early, get
I
a,
won't do that.
So
get a, get a jump on me.
We have a few places that teach it.
Let's see here. Lead.
So there's a really cool coffee shop in town. Have you been?
Nope.
There's a really neat coffee shop in town. I'll look up the map and I'll get you the name of it. I mean, my wife and I went a couple times, and I'm not a coffee drinker, it was just kind of a neat little bakery.
I will definitely go.
Yeah, well, they make beer out there too, you know.
Yeah,
Well, when we went to Costa Rica, we went to a coffee shop all the time because they had good bird in there. So it's just taking pictures. So it's in the same one.
Same one, yeah, we're just doing a different color pattern here, so.
You're testing what we're taking.
Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you how to do it at all. You just gotta go for it.
this first one. It's not good.
But no, start with your
Only
lead,
my second flight.
stabilize that bead. I put my lead a little bit too tight the first time and I couldn't really wiggle it later, so I'm leaving mine with a little bit of wiggle room this time so I can get a cleaner head. But, and then you do that thread dam behind the lead there.
Everything else came out pretty good. That came out pretty good.
Well, that's the first thing you need to
Learn?
no, you need to concentrate on tying that
I just
straight
need
down.
a copper wire lead.
Oh,
Well,
What you need?
when
You
I
thought-
have the opportunity
Those
to
two.
do that because
no, I missed it.
what you
roll
It was a
yeah,
test.
but see, tie this.
Got it.
Kind of flat. I think they refer to that as touching thread wrap or
Yeah, touching wraps, yep.
It won't. No, my first one was built up a little bit too big, but
And then on the last one, I tied the copper and the braid in at the same time, but if you want to do it, I'll do it one at a time here. So I'm going to start this copper right behind where I have that lead, and then tie it all the way back to where the barb of the hook is about right there. Then put my thread back up, and tie in that braid, kind of starting all the way at the front. Just kind of tying the stuff in all the way along the hook shank instead of tying it in just at the back. It just helps give you like a better taper to the whole fly. It makes that underbody kind of starting smaller back here and then gradually getting a little bigger. It's not super crucial with this fly. It does look better if it's got some taper, but just in general for most fly tying, if you kind of always want to aim to have kind of a tapered shape to it. So once I have both that copper wire and the braid tied in, thread all the way behind that bead, that cone, then we're gonna just wrap this pearl forward again, make that pearl underbody. You're kind of aiming for kind of a smooth, you know, if you do too many overlaps, you might build up some like bumps and stuff, but if you get them just touching with this stuff, it gives you a nice kind of smooth shape there. The fish will not see it, but we are fly tying right now, not fishing, so we gotta work on what we can. And then again, once you got that body tied in, we're gonna put the first piece of squirrel in on top. And just tie it in at the front and keep your thread up there. We're gonna use that wire to hold that squirrel strip down. Is it any easier the second time?
It's a fish eye. It's a fish eye. I guess it was in a box here.
Real quick, to get down that bulk. To get down that bulk, take a few off. That's right. And just only, no, sorry. So just only put it, like, you know how you said your other one's too bulky? So when you come, you won't do it all the way, but just when you do it like this, a little looser. And then come down here and just tie it like that. And don't wrap it anymore because that's where you build up your bulk. Yeah, you don't have to use it all.
Tie it,
Definitely
tie it back to front.
And that way you get less
You
bulk,
tie
and
it-
you can pull it tight.
You wrap it from the
pull it
back
tight.
to the front, and then you're going to leave your thread at the front because you're going to use that wire to hold down. You're going to work that wire forward through the fur.
But the braid, you said you started it at the back and
Yep.
wrapped forward.
Yep.
Okay.
And tie it off behind the cone. Yep. He's just a spectator.
Like I'm looking over your shoulder.
Come over and look over mine, please.
You don't want to take a lot of advice from somebody that's not tied, I want to say.
It don't keep you from giving the advice, though, does it?
No, but you don't want to listen to it. You want to listen to the guy who knows what he's doing then.
Yeah, yep, you gotta remember that should go in before the braid.
So you can always, I've tied it, you can tie it on the top. So if you want to tie it in on the front and tie it to the back, With the copper wire?
Tied what?
Just tie it in at the front, and then what? Run it to the back
Yeah,
and wrap
just-
it around the hook a couple times or something.
Well, you could do that or just use your thread. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Before the fur.
Yeah, let me show you real quick. I've
David's-
done that like a bunch of times.
David's fly
See,
rescue
I know
service.
all the tricks of fixing things because I always mess it up. I'll forget one piece.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you do is you really won't see it.
And then
So just like tie it.
once you get that first piece of squirrel in, again, we're gonna try and tie that other piece in by just the leather, kind of at an angle
Kind of loose
to get it kind of started going sideways. And it'll help you when you palmer it.
This.
Okay.
Because it don't have to be. Yeah, it don't have to be.
Wide wraps.
Wide wraps. That's what I meant, not loose. Yeah. So basically, then run your thread back, and you won't be able to tell.
You just add a little ribbon in there.
There we go. Got the clean head this time.
I'll be in touch. I'll call you since I know now that you're not moving stuff.
I think like the whole thing, like from this very tip,
I'd be taking loads
shank
on
lengths
it,
up
but
there,
that's
right
what I'll
about
do.
there.
I got a load in my car right
So
now.
then when you get
Oh,
it cut it,
for this.
part
So you-
My brother went there again today, so
that part. Somewhere, yep.
he was sorting stuff up.
Oh.
Well, these guys who are professional
Gotta have a big
tires,
garage sale.
guys who can think up a name for.
We empty in the
for a
garage
fly.
out, so everything
Do
from
they-
the house can go out there.
Do they have a idea in mind that's gonna catch fish, or are they just being artistic in their
The
design?
name or the
Well, both, a little bit of both.
Yeah.
yeah,
You
if
know,
you're trying to
after-
sell,
after
if
he
you're trying to
sells a
sell a
fly-
fly, yeah. I think it's gotta
Good,
look
but I don't wanna
more
hold
fishy
you up.
than, you know.
You think he goes out there now and catches fish and he says, okay, now I can name it? Because frankly,
Yeah.
you know, he really has to tie this thing a number of times before he has it perfected.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the amount of lead you put on there is gonna cause, gonna affect it. You've got a lot of weight with that, cone head on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, he probably, I don't know.
I mean, a lot of
fished this thing for like 5 years before he thought
A
about it.
lot of these guys, I mean, they're tying these flies to fish them, and
Yeah.
then they come up with a name afterwards, or somebody else comes up with a name for them. They don't always even come up with a name for them.
Yeah.
Name, that's the easy part.
I'm saying, yeah, I'm saying sometimes they just name it after whoever because that's the guy that ties it, that fishes that fly, and so you tie a fly kind of like he has, and you know.
job, everyone. I think too, you know, if we do one that's not super involved, that second one always
Yeah.
turns out better than the first one.
Yeah, you know, I think what you do, or at least what I do, is I try to use all my materials, and then it ends up getting fat. You know?
Oh yeah.
Gets too much body in there. The second one,
Yeah.
you can start tapering that stuff, because you know how
Mhm.
much material you're gonna need.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And just better feel for the proportions overall and everything. Yeah.
Well, it definitely helps to see a fly, to me, you know.
See an example.
To see it, yeah,
Yeah.
because that gives you much better, I mean.
Yeah, they are.
Now, I don't know if you saw how I tied it.
Mm-mm.
I just measured the tail, tied the zonker on just like that.
And then cut it.
And then
Oh, and then you just wrapped it.
No,
Yeah.
you just make the tail the right length, and then just leave
wrap
the
it.
front on and just wrap
Hey,
it.
coming over there, Robinson.
That breaks down some of that bulk if you have problems with it.
Right. Yep.
You just have to, you know, finagle with it to make it the right length to tie it in, so you got the extra out the front, but.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bro. You're the first one ever did it on time since I've been here.
Well, when you pick a simple fly.
Yeah.
You're on
This is,
TV.
I mean, almost the minimum number.
What are you trying to
of material
say,
go
Jimmy?
into one.
I said exactly what I was gonna say. I said, didn't you understand that I said?
I think, how did we even start? I tied some and you saw it and you said that would be a good one for the tie.
You know,
Yeah.
but some of them, a lot of them are like that.
I'm just
Like
picking, yeah.
cloud, we tie clouds. I like to tie too, because once again,
Yeah.
the first one's like herding cats, and the second time sometimes they're paying attention.
Well, I guarantee you, if you're
This is where I
flying,
got,
tying
this
the
is where I got
clouser,
confused.
the first one's gonna have